In today's video, guys, we have a lot to go ahead and talk about. So welcome back to a brand new video, and today we have another episode of the Championship Roundup. And this video will actually be split into two parts. The first half of the video, we're going to be going over all this weekend's action, which took place in the Championship, and talking about each game individually. And in the second half of the video, we're going to be going ahead and making our score predictions for what we think is going to happen in the midweek games in the Championship. So we got a lot to go ahead and discuss this weekend. Some of the results were absolutely bonkers, and as always, I'm very interested to get your guys' opinions on what you made of your team's performance this weekend in the comments down below. So make sure you do leave a comment in the comments down below, and before we actually get into any of the games, I will include your guys' comments. So if any of you guys did successfully manage to get any of your score predictions correct, then I will include your comment on screen. Now, apologies if you did get one right and your comment wasn't included. We have a whole lot of comments to go ahead and look over, and I just couldn't fit them all in. In terms of myself this weekend, I had a pretty poor one with my predictions. I don't think any of mine were correct, but FIFA managed to go ahead and get two of theirs correct, predicting both the Leeds and Ipswich games. So a fair play to FIFA this weekend. They've had a good one. But enough of that, guys. Let's go ahead and hop in to talk about some of these games. So we'll start it out with the Friday night encounter at St Andrews, which in the end did finish as a goalless draw between Birmingham and Swansea City. And I'm not gonna lie, I have no idea how Birmingham didn't score in this game. They more than deserved the 3 points, but were just quite wasteful with all the opportunities they created. Swansea in this one, I was very disappointed with their performance. Going forward, they didn't really offer anything. They actually finished the game with 0 shots on target, and defensively, Birmingham were never really challenged for this one. But from a Birmingham perspective, they'll just be gutted they didn't pick up all 3 points. In the first half, they had about 6 or 7 opportunities, and they had a goal which was disallowed as well. Omar Bogle, a player who was getting into the right positions for Birmingham, I think he had about 3 or 4 chances in this game. Just nothing was quite falling for him. He had a couple of one-on-ones which he couldn't manage to convert. But overall, there were quite a few positives to take from this game from a Birmingham perspective. You know, they did dominate the match really in terms of chances created. Joshua and McGurman were both very busy. Djukovic had quite a few chances. Leighton Adams had a fantastic chance. It was at sort of a tight angle, but in the end, he blazed that one over the bar. So finishing 0-0 in the end, Birmingham should have gone to win it. I'm sure Swansea will be more than happy with the point. Then moving on into Saturday's games, we saw Middlesbrough go ahead and pick up a 2-0 away victory at Bristol City to keep them at the top of the Championship for the time being on 10 points. It was Braithwaite who put Middlesbrough in front after Britta Assombalonga sent him through on goal, and then it was Assombalonga who managed to double their lead after just 32 minutes from a Stuart Downing cross. In the first half, Bristol City weren't really at the races. Defensively, they were looking a bit all over the place really, and Middlesbrough were more than able to brush them aside in what was a fairly comfortable first half from them. In the second half, Bristol City, in fairness to them, they did show a response. You know, they were pushing for getting back into this game and should have probably got a goal. They hit the post a couple of times, hit the crossbar as well, and Vyman had a chance which had to be parried away by Randolph. But in the end, Bristol City weren't clinical enough and a little bit sloppy as well. Bristol City so far this season haven't really been all too convincing. They've not had the easiest of starts to the season with some of the teams they played, but so far for Bristol City, we've not really seen them have a good game over 90 minutes. We've only really seen them play well in patches so far, so that may be a bit of a concern for Bristol City, of course. They didn't have the best of transfer windows either. They lost a lot of big name players, and Middlesbrough though just grinding out the wins at the moment, and they'll be happy with the start of the season. You know, they had a bit of a turbulent pre-season with some of the results they were picking up, the way they were playing, and losing Adama Traore, but so far Middlesbrough look fairly comfortable. Then we saw Blackburn Rovers go ahead and pick up a 1-0 away victory at Hull City, and Hull so far this season only gone ahead and picked up 1 point from their opening 3 games. It's really not been a brilliant start to the season for them, and in this one as well, going forward, they weren't looking completely at it. It was Bradley Dack once again stepping up for Blackburn Rovers with their goal. Quite a nicely worked goal actually. It was Elliot Bennett, a low cross from the right hand side, and then Bradley Dack in at the right moment to go ahead and make it 1-0. Blackburn had a couple of other chances in the first half as well, and it could have been more than 1-0 realistically with some of the chances they mustered up. Going into the second half as well, it wasn't as if that Blackburn, it was a smash and grab sort of game. In the second half, they continued playing well, and Hull City so far, I'm yet to be convinced by them. And in my prediction video at the start of the season, I did have Hull just surviving. I feel like it's going to be in and around relegation for them with the way they've started so far this season. They've not convinced me. We then saw Ipswich go ahead and pick up a 1-1 draw against Aston Villa. I feel like this will be a good result for Ipswich, especially after coming off the back of that 1-0 away defeat at Rotherham. It was important to come to this home game and go ahead and pick up something, especially as they were playing more than half the game with 10 men. Both teams did have good opportunities in the first half, with both of them hitting the crossbar, but it was Aston Villa who took the lead. A nice header from Jonathan Kodjia after a John McGinn cross. McGinn once again coming up clutch with some nice balls into the box, and Jonathan Kodjia finally getting off the mark for the season. Hopefully for Villa fans, this will now start something for Cudgett and he'll get into a bit of a goal scoring form. Ipswich then managed to find an equaliser though. It was poor from the Aston Villa goalkeeper Nyland who just spilled the ball, and it was Chalobah who managed to go ahead and capitalise on that. Disappointing, you know, that you'd expect better from a keeper coming into Villa this season, but even so, Ipswich then reduced to 10 men after Edwin was sent off for a second yellow card. Going into the second half, I thought that Aston Villa would really bring the game to Ipswich, but that wasn't really the case. They struggled to create anything, and with 10 men, Ipswich did quite well actually to go ahead and take the sting out of the game. Villa did have a chance very late on with Conor Hourihane trying to bend one in from outside the box, but in the end it was Bilkowski who was able to keep it out. But finishing as a 1-1 draw in the end, not a bad result for Ipswich considering they were playing with 10 men for the most of it. And then we saw Leeds United continue their winning streak at the start of the season with a 2-0 home victory over Rotherham United, but it wasn't just a complete rollover for Leeds. Rotherham actually, I thought, made a good account of themselves, especially in the first half where they were probably unlucky not to go ahead actually. John Taylor had one terrific chance which just cannoned off the inside of the post and was unlucky not to go into the back of the net. They had a couple of other chances in that half as well, and Leeds, they were mustering up a couple of opportunities, but Rotherham were defending quite well actually and going ahead and limiting Leeds to a few clear-cut opportunities. Into the second half though, it was Luke Ayling who gave Leeds the lead. It was always going to be a sort of a set piece which was going to go ahead and put Leeds in front in this one. With how deep Rotherham were playing at times, they needed something to fall for them inside the box, and in the end it was Luke Ayling who popped up with that. Then that allowed them to have a little bit more space in behind. You know, Rotherham were going to need to come out a little bit more, and it was Kemar Roofe once again with a terrific finish to go ahead and wrap up the game for Leeds United. And so far Kemar Roofe has just been an exceptional player, and with the confidence he's playing with at the moment, who knows what's possible in terms of a goal return for Kemar Roofe this season. But overall Leeds, they probably did deserve the victory. Rotherham got a bit unlucky. They had a couple of opportunities in the first half, but nothing was falling for them in the end. So a good victory for Leeds. They're looking good at the moment. On this game then saw Millwall go ahead and beat Derby County by 2-1 in what was quite a disappointing first half for Derby especially. Defensively, they were looking all over the place really. Millwall were forcing them into mistakes, pressing them high up the pitch, and Derby couldn't really live with that. Both goals from a Derby perspective were probably avoidable in my opinion. The first one coming from a set piece, the second one, first of all, originating from Scott Carlson, giving the ball away from a goal kick, a bit more sloppy defending, and then the ball actually took a deflection to go ahead and get into the back of the net. But Millwall more than deserved that 2-0 first half lead, as they were by far the better team. Derby had one or two chances, Tom Lawrence from a free kick which needed to be tipped over, but apart from that they weren't really in the game. Into the second half though, Derby did show a response and did look to improve. Martin Marcon had the ball in the back of the net, but that one was judged to be offside in the end. That one looked very close. He may have been onside for that, I'm not so sure. Derby did get a goal back though through David Nugent in the 73rd minute, and considering that Millwall actually gave up a 2-goal lead in their last home game against Middlesbrough, I'm sure there were a lot of nervous Millwall fans in this one, but in the end they were able to hold out for a 2-1 home win in what was a deserved victory in the end. Derby only really turned up for 45 minutes of this one, and so far with Derby County, I've not been convinced under Frank Lampard so far, but it is still very early days. The next game saw Bolton Wanderers continue their impressive start to the season with a 1-0 away victory at Reading. This result now means that Reading have gone ahead and lost their first 3 games of the season, and I mean, it's not been a brilliant start for Reading for the season, really. In this game, once again, they had chances to go ahead and take the lead in this game. Bolton were defending very well, though, and Reading just weren't clinical enough. And the more this game continued, the more you could see the Reading fans and the Reading players getting more frustrated that the ball wasn't going into the back of the net. And Bolton played on that well, actually. Going into the second half, it was Yannick Vilchut who managed to go ahead and take the lead for Bolton after he coolly slotted into the bottom corner after he was sent through on goal. And that really was the difference between the two sides in this game. Bolton were clinical with the chances they had. Reading were actually quite wasteful, really. And in terms of the build-up play especially, Bolton did very well to limit Reading to a lot of half chances in the second half. And like I said, once again for Bolton Wanderers, it was Yannick Vilchut coming up with the winner for them once again. That's 2 winners he's now scored for Bolton so far this season. In his time at Norwich, one thing that was probably argued with Vilchut was he's a very good physical player, good technical player, but his final product wasn't always there. For Bolton Wanderers, that's certainly not been the case so far, because he has been a terrific addition to this side so far. And with the way they started the season, who knows what Bolton could go on to do this season. But in terms of Reading, it's not been a brilliant start for them, and they really need to start picking up points fast. On this game then saw Sheff Utd go ahead and pick up a 2-1 home victory against Norwich City in what was quite an entertaining game actually. This one was a really end-to-end one where either side realistically could have gone on to win this one. It was Sheff Utd who went ahead and took the lead in this one through John Egan, but Norwich City managed to respond through Jordan Rhodes. I'm sure he enjoyed that one, scoring against Sheffield United, of course being on loan from Sheffield Wednesday. Once again, it was Onel Hernandez who went ahead and created the goal for Norwich, and it was a fairly good finish from Rhodes in the end. After that, the game was just really end-to-end, and like I said, either side could have gone on to win it. Sheffield United had some fantastic chances. Norwich missed some really guilt-edged chances in this one. They had one chance especially where 3 players were thrown goal against the goalkeeper, and somehow they didn't manage to score. And it's chances like that which define a game, really. And in the end, it was Billy Sharp who popped up with a 93rd minute winner for Sheffield United. And like I said, once again, Sheffield United, they had a flurry of chances in this one. Tim Krul had to be kept on his toes, but in the end, it was Billy Sharp, the captain, who popped up with the winner. And after a bit of a turbulent start to the season, losing their first 2 games, they've now got back on track, winning their last 2. And talking about Norwich City, a bit of a funny side so far this season. Their performances, I don't think they've been that bad. You know, going forward, they've looked quite good so far. Defensively, a couple of cracks have been in there, but I'd be interested to know, with Norwich fans, what's the general vibe at the moment surrounding Daniel Farke, and how long do you think he's going to get this season for you to really be pushing up the table? Do you think he's going to be given time this season, or do you think results really need to start changing? Because the performances haven't been awful, but there's been signs that you need to improve in some areas, definitely. And our next game finished West Brom 7, QPR 1, in what was one of the most ridiculous games we've seen in the Championship so far. And QPR fans, I would love to get your guys' opinions in the comments down below as to what went wrong for you in this game, and what's been your opinion of Steve McLaren so far, because this was an absolutely disastrous performance, especially in the second half. West Brom in the first half, they dominated the game, really. They went ahead and took the lead through Matty Phillips, a nice finish from him, but QPR did manage to respond and go into the break at 1-1. You're thinking going into the break at 1-1, QPR are going to want to keep the game tight in the second half. They've got players going forward who realistically could have hurt West Brom. You know, defensively so far this season, West Brom haven't been all too convincing, but the second half, QPR completely fell apart, and as soon as West Brom made it 3-1, when Jay Rodriguez slotted in that penalty, that's when QPR really started to collapse. And all the goals after that 3-1, QPR could have avoided. Of course, they conceded another penalty as well, but the majority of the goals that they conceded were either coming from their own mistakes as they were trying to play out from the back, or they sloppily gave the ball away in midfield, and they could have all been easily avoided. And QPR, this was a disgraceful defensive performance. And you just got to question, what does that do to a team's mentality? You know, to go ahead and lose 7-1 this early on into the season isn't going to set QPR well up. And there's going to need to be a response in midweek, because if there's not, things could go very sour very quickly at QPR. You know, Steve McLaren, when he was given the job in the first place, I wasn't completely convinced by that. And at the moment, the way that QPR have looked so far this season, I think they are going to struggle. You know, they've got the transfer embargo in January as well. Things aren't looking brilliant at QPR. Like I said, I'd be very interested to get some QPR fans' perspectives, but taking nothing away from West Brom, you know, they can only beat what's in front of them, and West Brom in this game were very clinical indeed, and this is just a sort of result which really will go ahead and kickstart their season. Of course, we saw them go ahead and just about narrow past Norwich City last time out with a 4-3 away victory, but a really convincing home game like this gets all the fans back on side with West Brom this season and with the manager, and taking this forward now, this will give West Brom a lot of confidence. Within sort of Wigan Athletic, go ahead and draw 2-2 with Nottingham Forest, and in terms of Nottingham Forest so far this season, I've not been entirely convinced by them, and that's sort of continued into this game as well. I thought the Wigan over the 90 minutes were probably the better side in this one. They managed to go ahead and take the lead after just 2 minutes as Nick Powell managed to header them 1-0 in front. It was I thought Costel Pantilimon could have perhaps done a little bit better. The ball was coming in from a corner. Pantilimon tried to claim it, but it went past him, and in the end Powell was first to claim it, and Wigan went in front. After that, Nottingham Forest responded quite well though. It was Matty Cash who popped up with an equaliser. Matty Cash, definitely someone for Nottingham Forest who I'd like to see more of this season. I know a lot of Nottingham Forest fans highly rate him. After that though, it was Wigan who got back into the lead after Will Grigg managed to convert a penalty. And then after that, the only real criticism you can throw at Wigan was they should have probably gone to score more goals in the second half. In terms of the transition and the build-up play between both these two sides, I thought that Wigan played the better game in this one, to be honest, and considering the amount of money that Forest have spent, it's still going to take time for all these players to bed in. Lewis Grabban, once again, I didn't think he was brilliant. The way that Forest actually equalised in the end was a last-minute penalty. It was Lewis Grabban who went ahead and took it. That was saved by the goalkeeper, but then Sudani managed to follow in to give Forest a 2-2 draw. In the end, Forest probably got a little bit off the hook for that one. I didn't think they were brilliant in this one. Wigan, I thought, maybe got a little bit unfortunate to go ahead and concede the penalty late on, but you know, Forest, I suppose they are still unbeaten so far in the Championship, so it's been an interesting start to this season. Wigan so far with their performances, I think there's a lot of encouragement to take from that, and from what I've seen from them, I think they'll be alright this season. Then for the evening kickoff on Saturday, we have my team Preston North then go up against Stoke City, and this one finished as a 2-2 draw. Quite an entertaining game in the end, actually. It was Stoke who had the first good chance of the game, a cross coming in from the left-hand side, and Sadio Rahino almost heading in past Declan Rudd, but he made a good save at point blank range. After that, Preston, I'm not going to lie, we were very fortunate not to be down to 10 men. It was Paul Gallagher with an elbow on Joe Allen. If the referee sees that, it's going to be a red card, and we get off the hook with that one, I'm not going to lie. But for the whole 90 minutes of this game, I was quite disappointed with the way Stoke played, really. I mean, with the calibre of players they have, they set up with a 4-4-2 formation. They were incredibly direct for this game, going long every time, looking for Benekafobe, who's not really a traditional target man, so that game plan sort of confused me. And with the, like I said, with the calibre of players they've got, I think they are capable of playing a better style of football than what they showed at Deepdale. But Preston went ahead and took the lead. It was Paul Gallagher with a thumping penalty into the back of the net. That was absolutely fantastic from Gallagher. You won't see many better penalties than that, really. But Stoke managed to instantly respond with Peters, their left back, popping up with a fantastic rifled shot into the roof of the net. After that, Preston, they managed to retake the lead just before half time. It was Callum Robinson with sort of a slice shot which fell to Graham Burke at the far post, and then he managed to volley in past Jack Butland. And it was a deserved lead for Preston going in at half time. In the first half, I thought that we more than got the better of Stoke, really. We were creating more opportunities, and in the midfield battle, Preston were comfortable with it, really. With us playing a 3 midfield and Stoke having 2, we were sort of overrunning them. Into the second half, though, both sides had chances, and the game really changed when Stoke City went ahead and introduced Peter Crouch into the game. And then with his first touch of the game, he managed to go ahead and equalise. We gave a silly free kick away, and with both of our defenders, Tom Clark and Ben Davis, both being around 5'11", going up against a 6'7" striker like Peter Crouch, I mean, you can't. There's something, you know, you can't really defend against, and he managed to go ahead and level it up for Stoke City. And in the end, that was how the game did finish. I thought with the way that the game went, if any side was going to go on and win it, it was probably going to be Preston. I thought that the football we were playing, the build-up play we were having, was absolutely terrific. We just didn't have that final quality in the second half to go ahead and finish off Stoke City. So fair play to Stoke. You know, in fairness to them, they did come from a goal behind twice in this game, so that does show a bit of resilience. And a couple of their players stepped up for this one, but I've still been quite underwhelmed with what I've seen from Stoke City so far. In terms of the man of the match for this game, though, Ben Pearson for Preston North End absolutely ran the show. He more than showed once again that he's one of the best defensive midfielders in the Championship, both with breaking up the play when Stoke City were coming forward, and from making us tick, from controlling the game from that deep lying position, spraying the balls out to either wing. He was absolutely terrific in this game and more than deserved the man of the match in the end. So finishing 2-2 in the end, it was an entertaining game. And then for our last game to go ahead and talk about, we saw Brentford go ahead and beat Sheff Wednesday by 2-0 in what was a very comfortable performance from the home side in the end. Sheff Wednesday offered barely anything going forward in this one, and realistically the only positive from Sheff Wednesday was it wasn't more than 2-0, because the only criticism that you could throw at Brentford after this game was they were a little bit wasteful with some of the chances they had in the second half. It was Neil Maupay who went ahead and gave them the lead after just 20 minutes from the penalty spot, and it was Ollie Watkins who went ahead and made it 2-0 in the second half. Like I said though, Brentford had a flurry of chances in this one, and with the way Brentford play football, they are very hard to defend against. They're very good at getting out of tight spaces with a 1-2 pass, playing in triangles in and around the park. Romain Sawyers I thought was fantastic for this one. Ollie Watkins drifting inside from the wing was absolutely terrific with some of his movement, and Neil Maupay as well was very good. So Brentford so far this season definitely been a side who's gone on to largely impress me. I think they're set up for a very good season this year. Sheff Wednesday though, I'm not really seen much from them this season, and from what I've seen so far, you get the impression that they may be underachieving this season. You know, they've still got good players in that squad, but with the way that they've been set up defensively especially, they've looked a bit all over the place. So there you have it guys, there were all the matches that did take place this weekend. So in terms of my result of the weekend, I mean, let's be real, there could only be one. It is of course going to go to West Brom for their 7-1 demolishing of Queen's Park Rangers. And then as for my goal of the weekend, I'm actually going to go ahead and give it to Eric Peters for his goal against my team, Preston North End. It was a goal at an important time for Stoke City, and rifling it in with his left foot into the roof of the net, it was a very good finish from him. So now we will move on into my score predictions for the midweek games going on in the Championship. So we've actually got games going on both Tuesday and Wednesday. We've got 10 midweek fixtures, so let's go ahead and hop into these. So first of all, we've got Derby County going up against Ipswich Town. With the way that Derby are playing at the moment, you'd expect Ipswich to get something from this game, but I've just got that feeling that Derby are going to have a reaction from Frank Lampard sooner rather than later. So for that one, I'm going to go with a 2-1 home victory for Derby, although I'm not too confident in predicting that. QPR going up against Bristol City. QPR cannot be as poor as they were against West Brom. We're going to have to see a reaction from this one, but mentally, what a 7-1 defeat does to you, we're going to see in this game against Bristol City. Bristol City themselves haven't been brilliant so far, but I do fancy them for a 2-1 away victory in that game. Rotherham going up against Hull City. I thought Rotherham maybe got a bit unlucky against Leeds. They held their own quite well in that game. For that one, I'm going to go for a 1-0 home victory for Rotherham. Then we see Swansea going up against Leeds United. Swansea in their last game, I thought they got very lucky against Birmingham. And going up against a side like Leeds who can take their chances, I'm going to go for a 2-1 away victory for Leeds United. Then moving on into the Wednesday games, we've got Aston Villa going up against Brentford. Brentford so far playing some terrific football. And for that game, Villa so far, you know, they're no mugs. Defensively, I'm not so sure, but they can score goals. And with Jonathan Kodjia getting a goal recently, maybe he'll find some decent goal scoring form. So for that game, I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. Blackburn going up against Reading. Reading so far not really been too impressed. Blackburn have been a good side so far, creating quite a few chances. So for that game, I'm going to back Blackburn for a 2-0 home victory. Then we see Norwich going up against my team, Preston North End. Norwich have been a really odd side so far, and the feeling around Daniel Farke is a little bit iffy around Norwich at the moment. Going up against my team, Preston, who I think have been good. Our results haven't really reflected that so far. You know, the loss against Swansea and the draw against Stoke, but our performances in general have been fairly good. So going away to Norwich, this is a sort of game which we need to be targeting to get something from it. And with how inconsistent Norwich have been so far, I'm going to go for a 2-1 away victory for Preston. Sheffield Wednesday going up against Millwall. I'm going to back a Millwall 2-1 away victory. Sheffield Wednesday so far not looking brilliant this season. Bolton going up against Birmingham. Bolton have been very good in picking up results so far, but Birmingham did get quite unlucky not to pick up all three against Swansea, so that's quite an interesting game. For that one, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. And then to wrap it up, we've got Stoke City going up against Wigan Athletic. I mean, when you look at both sides, Stoke should be winning this game, but so far they've been anything but convincing. And going up against a side like Wigan, who have already showed that they can score goals, for that one, I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. So guys, there you have it. There are my score predictions for the midweek games. All those will be listed in the description down below. And make sure you guys do go ahead and make your score predictions. And of course, if you do get any of your predictions correct, then your comment will be included into the next video. So apart from that, guys, that will now wrap it up. So thank you so much for watching. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure you do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. As well as that, make sure you subscribe for some regular championship content. But apart from that, guys, thank you so much for watching. And I'll see you all in the next one.